Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Mariner of Spirit. I'm Greg. I'm your host, and tonight we've got a special show. It's special in the fact that I have this great guest who's been around with me for quite a few years now, probably all the way back to like 15, 16, something like that. And she's been an amazing woman from the first time I met her until now. And before I bring her on, I have a few things to mention, but I thought I'd just tease you a little bit to start it off with. So before I go ahead and bring her on out, I want to go ahead and mention the people I support. And right now, it is Plotographs with Tim Miley. Tim Miley's and his wife, Lauren, are paranormal investigators that raise money for Plotographs via their events that they run every year. And they have some great events. And the thing that I really love about it is the fact that he always has top-notch speakers for this and for this event. And he usually has like 4 or 5, well, maybe 3 or 4 events a year, and they do an amazing job. And the people that they have are really, really great. And you never can. There's so many people in the community that are very good speakers that you could always run into somebody that you don't know on one of his events. That's number one. And just a shout out to him and say hi to him if you run into him for me. And the other one's PKC, Paranormal Kicks Cancer. And that's Chris Goskowski and Alex Wilkinson. That was like a brain fart for some reason. But anyway, they're a great couple from down in Florida. And they do basically the same thing. They raise money for cancer research via their events, and they'll do investigations, and the money they raise from the investigations goes to cancer research, and then they'll do haunted houses and things like that and do the same thing. They're great people. I knew them from Old South Pittsburgh. They were up there doing a event with my friend Ronnie D, and they went ahead and he had him come on the show that night, and it was great to meet him and talk to him, and I just had a kick out of it. So it was like, you know what? These are the kinds of people that I really need to support in the community and share with everybody that's a listener. So those are the two. And the other part that I do is I always mention authors, and a lot of the authors are available through, and I have an author here too tonight, so I'm going to mention her. We're going to mention the other ones first. Bruce Holliday, Tobias Wayland, Adam Benedict, Kathy Kressel, Barnaby Jones, Sherilyn Cotter, Dr. Heatherly Langdon, Lynn Monet, Ron Iacovetti, Victoria Munday, Tony Rathman, Natalie Jones, Patty Negri, Sylvia Schultz, Amelia Cotter, Rex Nielsen, David Sloan, Christina Bloom, day song, and Joseph Havent. And of course, I will go ahead and say it right now, the Bishop Christina Rake. And without further ado, I'm going to bring her out. Welcome, Christina.
Hi,
Great to have
Greg.
you.
Thank you for having me. It's wonderful
Oh,
to be here at last.
that's awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and just do a little rundown of the things that were from your Facebook page. I
Okay.
know, you. I met you back in, I think it was 15 or 16, and it was at
Oh my God,
Bathurst
yeah.
Grove when we
Yes.
were doing the investigation of the Thousand Words for Chuck Williams,
Right.
and you had medals,
Yeah.
and I just retired that one.
You told me in June when I saw you at the Paranormal Chicago conference.
And
Um,
it was something that, and I have another one. I have another Saint Michael, and I also have a Saint Benedict. And the Saint Benedict was the one that you had given me. And it was like, so many years of fishing and sweating, and you gotta get a new one. It's,
yeah.
you're not a kid. So I did that, and so Reverend Christina is the arch as the Archbishop of the Old Catholic Church, and she also is a theologian, a speaker, author, and she's this got God and the Paranormal. That's the book?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes. God and the Paranormal, Ghosts, Mediums, and the Afterlife in the Bible.
okay, and then you're a mother, of course, because you have two children,
Two
and
adult kids.
and then you have some crazy pets, right?
He has this a myriad ferrets.
And the one thing that's really interesting about compared to before, it uh, it's mentioned on that page about the fact that it's the Catholic Church in Exile.com.
Yes, that is the name of in old Catholic is sort of like a movement. Like there's Judaism, and then there are different groups, and so our group calls ourselves the Catholic Church in Exile, um, because we minister in particular to people who are left behind by other institutions, for whatever reasons. So we have a huge ministry to the poor, to the disenfranchised, to the LGBTQ community, to women who feel called to priesthood. And so we took on that name as and who has an experience being exiled from something, if it's family or even your own life. So there's something wonderful about walking through a desert with a bunch of people who need someone else to walk through the desert with. So we changed our
That
name to that recently.
that is really really awesome. I know that when we talked about, when I Chuck and I came out and we saw you, and you had a mass,
Hmm.
and I must say, still to this day, I've been trying to make it back, and I haven't. But that's the thought is what counts, number one. And it's St. Charles. It's not like I can jump in my truck, like, and drive 10 minutes and drink a cup of coffee. I've got to drive all the way down by you, so
Oh yeah, it's a hike.
it's a little hard.
Yeah,
I still have the thought, and one of these days I'll surprise you. I'll call you the day before and say, okay, what time's mass, and we'll take it from there. I'd
that
love
would
to.
be awesome.
I would love to do it with Chuck.
Yeah, I truck drives quite a distance when he comes out for mass. So
How many times has he been to mass?
quite a few. I actually I confirmed him last last Easter Vigil.
Oh,
So he was out
awesome.
regularly, and the last time I saw him, he popped out in May. I think it was May. Um, but
Oh,
you know what? We don't hold it's not a mortal sin to not get to church, especially in the 21st century when Sunday morning is often the only time anybody has off anymore. It's not like we get set 2 days a week off anymore. Most of us work 60 to 80 hours a week. So people come when they can. We are not God's goalies. So we're not going to police you. You come when you can. And when you don't come, it's not like I'm not thinking about you when I'm up there. And I remember when you visited and I talked to you outside of church, and you come when you can come.
it was great seeing you at that last Paracon too.
That was fun. That was the first one I brought Father Caleb, my 4'9" Franciscan priest, too. And he had a blast. He's like, "When's the next paranormal convention?" He was so excited to meet everybody and to try and get to know names and everything. Um, so I was glad to see you there. And you brought up coming back on the show. And I said, "Of course, I want to come back on the show." Um, so, yeah, that was wonderful.
If you want, if you would take a moment and talk about your book.
Oh, yeah. It's been a while since I wrote it. Um, so this is weird, but because I am a psychic medium and have been my whole life, my parents knew I could do what I can do by the time I was 3. So I wasn't raised religious, but I was raised understanding that what I could do was weird. I shouldn't talk about it with everybody, but there was nothing wrong with it. And then feeling very called to ministry, I went to Andover Newton Theological School, which is now part of Yale Divinity, and got my master's. But during the program, felt called to become Roman Catholic, and so I converted. After converting, I had that background of studying the paranormal since I was a small kid. I was probably the only 5-year old who knew what the word lycanthropy meant. Just studied all those old legends and studied science and studied the electromagnetic spectrum and mathematics and physics, just all to try and understand this thing we call the paranormal. And all of that wrapped up into this new movement towards Catholicism, where going all the way back to Christ and the apostles, who also believed this, that death doesn't separate us. Christ didn't come to save us from hell, he came to save us from death, which is a completely different concept. So, in fact, the King James Bible falsely translates the Hebrew word Sheol into Hades, which was a good translation in the original sense of Hades, not in the hell sense of Hades. Then, when I became ordained, I moved into a church where I could be ordained. So I left Protestant ministry, became Catholic, and then found a way to be a Catholic priest, even though I had lady parts. I don't have a penis. I can't be a priest. Apparently, God wrote that down somewhere. I haven't found it. So I moved into this new way of serving, and when I did, people would write to me and say, "How can you be both?" And the second you start with that, I know I'm in for a good time because everyone thinks that all these concepts are somehow diametrically opposed when they go perfectly well together if you just, open the doors of your mind to let different ideas in. And so it would be, how can you be both paranormal I'm like, I've been paranormal since I was born, but you mean supernatural. So we'll paranormal means outside the norm. How can you study that? How can you say you have gifts and be Christian and be a priest? And I'm like, I feel like I've missed the plot. What do you mean? What, of course, you're supposed to. Are you reading the same Bible I am? You're supposed to be able to do these things. You're supposed to do ministry to the dead. What Bible are you reading? Where are you getting this? So I would get these emails and I would answer them when I had time. So I would answer, and then the next person would ask a question where I'd be like, all right. And I'd pull out my Bible and I'm like, Galatians 3:4, boom, here you go. Send that one. And the email got longer and longer and longer. And by the end of a year, the email was 35 pages long. And I said, all right, first of all, like the Joker said in Dark Knight, if you're good at something, don't do it for free. And second, if so many people are finding me to ask these questions, it is very likely there are lots of people out there who don't know this information. Religion is already a very difficult thing to talk about. And like any other field, you do have to have a certain amount of expertise in it to be able to answer questions. Bible wasn't written by some guy named Dave who lived in Indiana and wrote it in 2000. It's a 5,000-year-old memorized events and stories that were then compiled and then were written over the course of 2,000 years in 4 dead languages that are contextual languages, meaning you have to know what comes before and after to understand what each word means, and it means different things in different contexts. And so you have to have years of study to be able to read something and say, okay, that doesn't mean what I think you think it means. People are comfortable asking me because I didn't immediately go, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. It was completely non-judgmental. I'm like, I don't like it when my plumber judges me for not having the right gasket on something. I am not going to judge people for not having a master's in theology. So in that course, I decided, let me put this into an entire book form. Let me move it. And then let me make it fun to read. Everybody who reads it, who's ever heard me talk, is like, I hear you talking to me as if we're having a conversation with the same ridiculous jokes and the same timing and the same what have you. So theology is boring unless you're strange like me. So tried to make it understandable, accessible, interesting, but I also laid it out. So if you're a paranormal investigator or you're a psychic or you're someone who's had strange experiences and you have Christian friends, evangelical clients, family members who have disowned you, what have you, coming at you, you can pick up this book and you can respond using scripture verses where you can actually, not go to war, but be like, do you know that that's not what that word is? Look that up, and you can actually engage in a meaningful discussion. And I've had people who were about to be excommunicated from their church of 20 years by their pastor because they were doing psychic readings. And she gave the pastor a copy of my book, and he met with her and said, I had no idea that these were spiritual gifts and that they were in the Bible. I can do these things too. I was just using different words for them. And then all was healed. So we're using different vocabulary to describe the same thing. Sorry, my bad. I didn't ask you if this was a family show.
I didn't hear that.
Nobody heard that. Sorry, folks. I'm from New Jersey. It's just poor manners. It's not anything evil. So, but yeah, that's why I wrote the book. I wrote 11 years ago. Then I got busy running a church and a family and all manner of things. But I've gotten back into the saddle again, and I have an editor for my first novel, which is finally plowing along, and for a couple other follow-up books, both in spirituality and science, and then in the paranormal. So,
It's awesome. That's amazing. I know that when you first started to talk and you said you were so old, you were like 5 years old, and you mentioned a word, and I didn't pick that word up. Uh, I don't even know how to use it in context, but it had something to do with maybe your understanding at that age, or there was. I'm not picking it up.
well, I'm sorry, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I I I will probably message you later on when I watch the replay.
Okay.
But and I apologize, but you know, I heard that word and I thought, you know, I should question her right now and say, I don't know what that means.
Oh, you know what? For those of you who don't know, I'm very annoying in this. My secular job for years and years and years was an educational consultant. I was a test development specialist. I wrote the GRE that you take to get into graduate school, and the ACT you take to get into college, and the SAT you take to get into college. And so every now and then I just come out with a word, and people are like, "That's like a 10th century French word." It's just stuck in my head because I used to
Okay.
have to write those analogies, like draconian is to severe as. I wrote that. That was my job. And so I apologize. I probably used the term unchurched. Is that the term I used?
I,
No.
I I'd have to go ahead and go back.
Okay. Shoot
It
it.
just caught me, and I've been listening, you know, trying to keep everything going in my head, and then I all of a sudden it was like, well, I just bring it up for a moment. I forgot two other things too, but they don't really involve you. But
Sorry. I
you
speak
know,
quickly. So just stop me. Raise your hand and I'll
I'm
answer.
gonna have to raise my hand. I gotta take a moment to mention a few things that I forgot in the
Mm-hmm.
very beginning, and one of them's a shout out to the Texas Wraith Hunters and Anthony and Savalos, and also another shout out to the Paranormal Task Force, which now is being run by Katie Stafford. And that used to be Greg, and I can't remember his last name, but he was from Central Illinois. So all those people are a great group, and the people in Texas are really a great group and well versed. I do know there. I'm waiting for if you guys have any questions. Oh, there you go. You went ahead and put it in there already. Boy, are
I'm a
you're
fish.
not you're not a slick Willie. I'll tell you that. But I really love the way you did that because it was like Greg Myers is the guy from Central Illinois that used to have Paranormal Task Force. I used to see him every year in just south of Springfield. Robin Terry used to have the haunted hour. Well, he had the haunted hour in Ashmore Estates, and at the haunted hour there was an event every year, and it was the first event of the season in January, and we would go there, and every year you would buy your ticket for next year, and so it was the same group of people for I don't know how many years, which was just amazing. Even during COVID, it was great. So I know there were a lot of people that I got to see there, but we're gonna. I'm not. I'm rambling. Just tell me to shut up. But anyway,
I'm listening.
when with all the things you do, what do you do for time management? So
Well,
that was
I
really that
know
bad of a question.
what I need to take up cocaine or something because sleeping gets in the way of everything I have to do. Um, Honestly, time management, that's a tough one. Really, for me, it's more about figuring out or setting boundaries around time for myself. That every second of every day is devoted to someone else in just about every way. I have two adult children who still live at home in their early 20s, and my daughter's pretty severe special needs. And then the church globally is on all different time zones. So, and I'm in charge of all of it. So the groups in Kenya can come under attack, and then I'm up dealing with that. And so, and then I have a parish and I teach at our seminary. Um, and then I'm the spiritual director for all the American clergy. So I meet with each of them every 2 weeks. So all of those appointments. So my biggest problem is the third commandment, keeping the Sabbath holy, which has nothing to do with going to church. That's never what that meant. It really means being able to build a gate around anything that gives you your quiet and your comfort and your time with God and with yourself. And if you don't keep that gate up, you're not honoring the Sabbath because the Sabbath's inside of you, carried around with you. So I have to learn how to build that gate. I'm good at building it. I'm good at declaring that I have Fridays off right now. But then Friday comes and I get 6 texts, 4 WhatsApps, and I'm like, oh, I'll just answer this one. I'll just answer this email. I'll just take this message. I'll just make this phone call. This one's in the hospital. And before I know it, I haven't had a day off in 3 months. So that's really key for me. Things get done when they get done. It's just a matter of making sure that I don't burn out. So I don't know if
So
I answered your question. But
the reason I was going there was because of the fact that you are an exorcist.
yeah, I perform exorcisms. I'm no more an exorcist than any priest is. If people call and they have a problem, I'll go take care of it. Um, but I don't agree with the notion that um, being an exorcist is sort of a step above clergy. Um, in fact, in the Eastern Orthodox churches, every priest is an exorcist. You're just automatically one. I study the history of evil. I study demonology from ancient Samaria and Mesopotamia all the way through modern age. So I read all those medieval manuscripts. I've followed all of the articles and in the about the papyri, the magic papyri in Egypt, and the Medici Library of Demonology scripts, and I know all that stuff. But I know it from an academic level. When someone's like, I have an attachment, I'm like, okay, meet me at the church. And then we rip it off them. And then we go about our day, if that makes sense. Yes, I've done them. No, it doesn't make me special. I have a lot of academic and historical knowledge about demonology, way more than I probably should. Um, but I'm not special because of that. It's just the books I've read, and I'm not special because um, people have come to me with things that they needed removed. So
Well, it's really interesting to say it lightly because I know of all the things that you do, that can get a little serious. So do you your time your time management's going to get all screwed up if you're involved in something like that, especially with something that's going to think about you. You know what I mean?
I found the best defense for any demonic attack is to not have one. And you're not, the way I mean that is demons are egotistical things. They like attention. They like it, like my son said, he was reading some of my medieval grimoires, the books about spells and theurgy, and that word meaning the process of contacting angels and demons and controlling them to do your bidding, which was huge in the Middle Ages, even among priests. And he said he was looking at one. He's like, so basically, a demon's like, haha, say my name, draw my favorite picture, and I will come. And I'm like, pretty much. That's what it looks like. You have to draw a picture, you have to say its name. But if that's the case, then why do we give them attention? We're giving them way too much attention. So when ridiculously bad things happen in my life, I don't blame a demon. I blame life. Life is just life. It sucks. It's hard sometimes. Weird things happen, bad things happen. The more you focus on them, the more they come because you're giving them attention. I'm more of the Eastern mindset of, there's something in the corner. I'm not going to have a big deal about it. I'm going to be like, shoo. And then it goes because it has to. I have a very different view of it. So I don't think I've done a lot of minor exorcisms, a lot of attachment removal. I haven't done anything major 2 years. But other than that, I just don't think about it the same way I think as most people do nowadays. It just is what it is, and bad things happen. It doesn't mean I'm under attack. It just means I'm living.
Very well spoken. I like that part. It brings me into that too, and so that's a good thing.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that get hung up about that.
Yeah.
And to have somebody like you on the show, it gives everybody a little different taste as far as how things are handled compared to what they see on the TV.
Oh God, we've become so demon obsessed,
And
and I have a theory about why. Actually, it's a 3-part theory. First, I think we're demon obsessed because it's very difficult to believe in something that you cannot see, taste, touch, hear, smell, cannot sense, cannot have any relationship with without using your imagination, and against which there is tons of empirical evidence. It's actually, how are you going to have a relationship with God? You're told there's this loving God, and you look around you and you're like, there is fuck all evidence that there is a loving God up there. I'm sorry, there just is. Religion didn't invent evil. Evil invented religion. I'm sorry. Yes, no, that's correct. I said that correctly. Because everybody looked around and said, why does life hurt? And the answer was, well, because we need to stop the hurt. So there are spirits over there. And if you give them their favorite honey, bad things will not happen to you. So that's how, it's literally, I'm not making that up. Anthropologically, in the history of the evolution of human psychology and religion, that's where it came from. We were trying to answer the question of why does it hurt? Why is there evil? So I forgot where I was going with that. Shoot.
You deal more in the now.
Yeah. I'm not. Oh, yeah. The demons. I think people are very, very obsessed with this notion that I can't know there's a God, but if I figure out there's a devil and I look for evidence of that proves there's a God, but then I don't have it doesn't engender in you what most spiritual practices do, which is a requirement to serve others, a requirement to be good to other people. You just have to focus on the evil and eradicate the evil, and you can't, because demons have never done anything as horrible as a human being has. Ever. They don't make us do anything. There weren't demons nailing Christ to the cross. It was people. There weren't demons rampaging through Europe and in the Holy Lands on the Crusades. It was people. Every genocide throughout the history of the world, there are no demons. It's just people. So if you want to eradicate evil, my answer is I'm not dealing with the supernatural big evil. That's not that common. Far more common is the jackass who's texting while driving and kills a family of 4.
Right.
That is part of just our fallen state and the evil we do to other people, because we think we're the center of the universe, and we're just not. We're just not.
I know I'm not.
No, it's a speck of cosmic dust. I'm not even special enough to come into the entirety of existence at the beginning or the end of anything. I show up in the random middle. In the middle of the universe, in the middle of the history of the galaxy, in the middle of the history of the solar system, in the middle of the history of Earth, in the middle of the history of the human species, in the middle. I'm not even in the center of my family. I was born in the middle of the history of my family.
That's not really the case.
Okay? Yes, it is.
No, and I'm just going to say this because I know there's only one special person.
Mm-hmm.
The one special person that I met back then in that day, and I'm still talking to her today, is you. And you know what? You always take the time. You love everybody. You are a special person.
You're and very
you know
sweet
what?
To say so.
And whether or not you want to take it as far as the old Catholic Church is concerned, that's your right, because of all the work you've done, and you work your butt off. And you know what? And then you go ahead and you go out and you deal with people like the Booth brothers, and you do a movie. It's like, what? How does she get the time to do that?
Okay, honestly, it wasn't horrifying being in a movie. That was an ego boost.
I didn't say it was horrifying.
No, I love all you guys. I really do. And so when someone's like, hey, we have this project we're doing that we're really excited about, I get excited too. So I'm like,
the only reason that I don't go directly right at your table at a Paracon is because usually you have 10 people around you talking.
Yeah, we get lines.
You know what I mean? And then I go, okay, well, I'll get her on the way back over. And it's things like that you have left so big of an impression on not only myself, but a lot of other people that were in GRS, that group, and people that, just thought it was really special that you not only blessed us, but we all got those medals because we were going to be, we were going out on a difficult mission, sort of. A lot of us created it in our own minds, but it that stuff happens down there. That has some bad juju in there, especially in the woods behind it. I think.
There's been a lot of places where I've been not vibing with the juju.
You really stop to wonder, and when I'm talking to you, the first thing that comes to mind is the fact that, do you feel that you're targeted in that respect? No.
Well, let me
With what you said before, okay, about giving it recognition, anything that would be evil, do you think that it does come at you because of that?
yes and no. And I have had instances where things have come right for me. Like I've been at an event and something just walked through a portal, and when that happens, it always feels like there's some intention, and I'm irritating someone just by my presence, and I mean a person. I walk in a collar. There are a lot of people who have been hurt by folks in religion, and I will upset them. My presence. They don't know what I mean. Am I safe? Am I somebody who wants them rounded up? What am I? So I understand that response, and I'm not faulting them for it. But there was one in particular where I was at an event, and I felt like I was inside a bug zapper. And it was because my protection was being hit so hard all around me that I was with someone else, and they're like, my God, your face is purple, because I was just heating up. My skin was heating up. I was sweating. And it was from the energy of this like psst, 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 all around me. And then I left and went outside because I couldn't breathe, and I vomited. And then I had to leave. Were they targeting me? Probably, maybe, I don't know. But I've also had instances where they're aware of my presence and they run. And again, not for me being the big bad or anything like that, but they run. Where I've been called out to a house, and of course it takes me a day to get there, and because I'm traveling out to Ohio from Chicago, and the family's like, this thing won't leave, we've had it blessed, and I show up and I walk in the door, and she's like, all the activity stopped yesterday. Of course it did. Of course it did. So I'm like, okay. And this was a really neat case because I picked up on some deceased friends and things, and gave them some messages that were comforting to them. And then I walked down in the basement and I went, oh, there you are. And this big bad thing was cowering in the corner and asked me to let it stay. And I went, oh, no, you shouldn't have been here to begin with. So out it goes. And I use a technique that I learned from a shaman friend of mine. I don't even need to get into the Latin. It's just like, go. And so I've had instances where things are like, oh crap, I'm leaving. But not because I, walked in like this. I walked in and they're like, it just stopped. And I'm like, good, I'm going to go home now. I don't even have to do anything.
You went all the way out to Ohio, and
there was a case where I went out to Ohio, and I had a friend who is an Orthodox priest bless the place, and they said the activity went down, but then it started to ramp up a bit. And I said, all right, well, it's not far from an area I like to visit. So I went out, And she said, it all stopped yesterday. And I went, mm-hmm, that's normal. But as a kid, because I believe because of my vocation to the priesthood, I just got with by these things. So
You
messed
just
with. I used to get the snot kicked out at me at night and
you
stuff.
just you just sort of froze up there for
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know why. When I was a kid, these things would come at me, especially at night. And I didn't know how to deal with it. My family weren't religious. I didn't go to church. I had no mentorship. I had no training. So they would just punch me and I'd wake up, wake up with scratches. It was horrible. And it stopped about the time I became a late teenager, which was also the time I pretended or convinced myself that I had no gifts. There was nothing going on with me. Absolutely nothing. I had no calling. There was no, I couldn't see anything. I could hear nothing. And that's when it stopped. That didn't stay stopped for long because by the time I got to graduate school, about 5 years later, it just went because you can't keep it inside. So yeah, I've been attacked. It leaves many people alone. It goes after others. I'm not God. I don't see the plan in it. Maybe one day when I'm dead, he'll, deign to show me what the fuck all that was about. But for now, I don't know. So yeah, they've come at me. They still will occasionally. They run. It just depends because we're talking about a species of things that can have myriad sources, abilities, origins, energy signatures, what have you. So it's not all one type of thing. You have elementals, you have deceased humans, you have the demonic, and then there's minor demons, middle demons, big demons, interdimensional things that I'm still doing experiments on trying to figure out. There's all manner of things out there. I don't know what's afraid of me, what is it, and I'm not looking to see.
I you know it sort of got me speechless on that part. I think you know the more you explain things, the more I know that you have a coat of armor. I You do, and you're that special.
I
And there is a large sun that shines upon you, whether it's attached to any religious end. It doesn't make any difference because the spirit that you have carries on. It's unbelievable. And I asked the question about that end of it because if you went ahead and you looked at some of the people that worked, the far up northeast, the two brothers, I can't remember who, uh, they were involved with the cases that the Warrens were involved with. They came in and they sort of came in between. One of them was Carl, and they're two brothers. And one of them did an interview, and he says the whole entire time that he had been working on the demonology end of it, that out of all the cases he had, there were only two that were actually, to him, demons.
agree with the rarity of it.
You know,
I do, and um, my master's, my specialty was in psychology, and in going into things where people think they might be possessed, and you know you have to take a look at where they are in their lives. um there are human psychological demons like codependence, addiction, um toxic relationships with family. There's And those are no less demons than any supernatural
Right.
member of hell. So I can have a long lecture about how this demon isn't real, or I can address the underlying cause and say, we're going to pray for healing from this, because I think that it's both and. It's always both and, because there's an energy to every thought, every action. 90% of the spiritual life is intention and will. So I try to come at things from a very rounded, well-rounded approach. Is it science or is it religion? It's both and. Is it psychological or is it supernatural or spiritual? Both and. It's math and it's music and it's psychology and it's everything. And you try to learn as much as you can, and then you just try to make people's lives a little less miserable. That's just my thought about it.
The chief from the Texas Wraith Hunters is in the room,
Oh,
Anthony Savalos, and he said Carl and Keith Johnson.
gotcha. Okay.
And then Azriana, who's right above him, said the same thing. And Anthony is a special guy because he's in charge of the forest down there.
Gotcha.
So he deals with a lot of that down there, and he's an awesome individual. He has a great group, does a lot of great things, and he never forgets, you know. And that's the kind of way to go ahead and carry it. But
Yeah.
I thought I'd bring that in there just because of, you know, it makes me feel a little better inside to know that, you know, what they throw at us, you know, is like, whether it's the press or it's the movies or anything else like that, they try to scare the living out of you. And it's like, you know, no, it's not really the case. That could be somebody's grandmother that's doing that.
Yeah.
You know?
And Carol had a question, and a really interesting one, and I spoke to it a little bit there. Bishop Rake, why do you think some people like to have these negative attachments? Um, and for the same reason that people like to be exorcists, I think it has a lot to do with we feel separated from everyone else. That's part of the fall. That's part of what we call in Catholic theology and first century Jewish theology is the fall. Look, it's a mess down here. And it's a mess because we don't know everything and we can't know everything. But I think first of all, it can absolve us of culpability, of responsibility for things. If there's a negative attachment that's causing me to do something, or it can relieve stress. One of the things I was reading about Egyptian imams and their exorcism rites for jinn. And there are three kinds of jinn. Only one of them is demonic. The other two are believing jinn and non-believing jinn. So, meaning that they're spirits that actually are either Christian or Muslim, Christian, Jewish, or Muslim. the jinn, the smokeless fire, the demons. When they do an exorcism in Islam, almost all of the possessed are women. And they are found to be possessed when they do something that women are not allowed to do. Have sex before marriage, dance, sing. They get caught cooing to their children. So in the religion where there is this control, this tight control of these women, to be possessed by jinn elevates their status and then exonerates them from what is, in a lot of cases, a very unjust set of rules. And I think it's the same in modern society. First of all, if you think you have a problem and you look on the television and you're like, oh, there's my problem, it's a demon. When people had schizophrenia in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, I have family who are schizophrenic, so I'm talking about the thought disorder in which the inside voices, the intrusive thoughts are heard outside. You and I will suddenly be like, who is that person following me? And then we immediately forget. Whereas that's not an inside voice for them, it's an outside voice coming in the ear saying, who is that person? So it's a completely different thought disorder in the brain. But anyway, if they felt they were being followed, it was the CIA and it was the mafia. What is it now, boys and girls, denizens of YouTube? Gang stalking, persecuted individuals. It has completely changed. No more is it the CIA or God or angels. It's gang stalking. It's this group of individuals that target certain people. And it's just the changing culture. It's the same problem. It's just a changing culture. And the more we're surrounded by this new technological 24/7 access to information and other people's opinions and these alternate theories of reality that bear no resemblance to actual reality, we become entrenched in this. And so now those internal issues are often externalized. And, oh, I just watched The Conjuring, it's got to be a demon. I know nothing about demons, but I have a demon. Now, as for actual attachments, those are a completely different thing. They are immediate. They're not like demonic possessions. They are instantaneous. And it's just the aspect of having this consciousness in a cloud around you that then affects your thinking. Almost like if you have, it's like a soundworm. If I start singing It's a Small World right now, you're all going to have It's a Small World stuck in your heads.
Yes.
Plus the power of suggestion. And by the way, you're all welcome. So you have It's a Small World in your head. You walk through a thrift store, there's a spirit there. They're like, they see the light. There's this recent movie called Talk to Me. I loved the concept and it's certainly worth the watch. But they see this light and they're like, I'm going to follow you because I'm not quite sure what I'm doing here or what this is. And everything's kind of gray, like a weird dream that keeps morphing. And you look like I should follow you and I don't know why. And they're surrounding you and they like to smoke cigars. And suddenly you're like, God, why do I taste cigars? Why do I want to smoke a cigar? That's what an attachment is. It's a very common concept in Judaism. Folks, a dybbuk is not a Jewish demon. A dybbuk is the same as an ibik. An ibik and a dybbuk are human consciousnesses that then double incarnate in a human person. The only difference between them is the ibik does it to elevate the person or to help the community, and then they leave by offering some gift, and then they go back to the other side, and the dybbuk stays. That's the only difference.
And then somebody's got to ship the dybbuk out.
Someone's got to get the dybbuk out. And there are different techniques used to do that. So, and I'm rambling. I'm sorry. I hope I answered your question.
She
A
said,
person have to allow a negative entity in for the attachment to begin. I answered your question before you asked it.
right.
For human consciousness, no. You do not have to invite in an intrusive thought. They're called intrusive because they happen throughout the day. You love your kids, you love them, you're terrified for them. And as they walk out the door, all of a sudden you see the movie in your mind of a car or bus full of penguin nuns running them down, or a gunman at the school. That's not actually going to happen. It's possible, it's not probable. So, but that's an intrusive thought, just like an attachment can happen. Um, it just happens. They come, they go. Um, the ones that won't go are the ones that affect you negatively are the ones that you would come to someone like me for, and I would help you move them along. But you don't have to invite anything. You don't invite the cigarette smoke to cling to your shirt when you walk through a bar. It just does. So you didn't do anything wrong if it
That's
happens.
that's
I've
a
had.
good that's a good example right there. An awesome example. It's 10:04 and I know you're tired and I know everybody in the room has been thinking about all the things you've been saying. And you're wonderful. And I'm going to pull a fast one here and say I would love to have you back in the spring.
Oh, absolutely. I would love to.
Okay.
Anytime.
And in between that, I hope to get together with Chuck and come out.
Well, you know where I am.
Yes.
Every Sunday at 9 a.m., I will be at the same place. So,
Are the do you still have the masses on Facebook?
no, I haven't been broadcasting on Facebook, unfortunately, because I've been focusing on in person.
Okay. Okay.
But we have been recording some of the homilies. Um, I don't know. I just kind of I felt as though because I was broadcasting, I was treating it more like a performance rather than a prayer, and I didn't like that about myself. So, um,
No, that I don't. I never picked it up that way. I enjoyed it.
I you know what the real shield is? Um, Humility. I know I'm an egotistical snotbag. So I try to keep myself humble. And I was like, no, you don't have to perform, just pray. And since I've done that, I've actually gotten as much out of the Mass as everybody else because I'm not focused on the camera. I'm focused on what I'm doing. And it was one of those Sabbath moments where I was able to do this as much for me as for everyone else. And it was absolutely beneficial to my own spirituality to have that moment with God and to not be concerned with what are you seeing? Instead, what are we doing? And
Right.
that was wonderful for me.
So, if anybody wants to get a hold of you, where do they have to go?
Um,
Don't tell them that they throw rocks. Okay, whatever.
to blow the dog whistle, I come
Right.
running like the little Purina thing. Um, if you go to the church website, CatholicChurchinExile.com, and I'll type it here, you can get a hold of me through that. And there's a lot of information on there about what we're doing. We have a Discord server where we do prayer. And in fact, I'm going to be doing during Advent a series on Revelation, the book of Revelation
Okay.
and end of the world, just to kind of give everybody a little bit of information so that it's not as mysterious a text as it looks like sometimes. But so there's educational programs. We do night prayer together and stuff like that. And then I will be in Collingswood, Art Center on November 7th for the Creep Fest. That's being held there. It's a paranormal convention. Collingswood Art Center is a very creepy place. It used to be a convent. I'm sorry, old convents are creepy to me.
Where is that at?
Toledo, Ohio. So I'll be out there with my husband.
If you do me a favor and just send me the message, and then that way I'll be able to put it up on.
Oh, sure, absolutely,
links.
Absolutely.
Or if you want me, I'll post it there. So
okay.
That everybody has an opportunity to go ahead and check it out.
Sure, I'll send you that information, and I'm just putting my thing in here.
It's awesome having you here, and once again, when you have somebody like you on, it's a blink of the eye, and the time's up.
Yeah, it goes fast when you've got a talker like me on.
Next time I think we ought to do get some sleep, and then we'll stay up a little longer next time.
Folks, I'm a morning person, not a night owl. So,
Christina, we love you, and we want to go ahead and stay in touch.
Absolutely, I love you too. I was so happy to be with you tonight. Thank you, and thank you everybody for coming.
It was awesome, and everybody, the comments they're making are really, really nice, and I think it's fitting that it's done that way. And thanks again for everything and for being here. It's been awesome having you on.
Thank you. Have a great week, everybody.
Okay, everybody, if you want to hang for a minute, I'll just close this down, and we'll close that way. Okay, everybody, we'll see you guys next week. Wednesday night, we'll have another show of One Spirit Connect. And get an opportunity, stop by there. Thank you very much, and we'll see you guys later. Have a great weekend. Thank you, Reverend Christina.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Join every Wednesday night, same time, same channel, to watch When Spirits Connect with your host, Greg Koss, provided by the Supernatural Inc. Entertainment Network. Thank you, and we'll see you next Wednesday.